Hi, my name is Michael Meyer, and this is my October 23rd weekly update. It's going to be a great one because we're going to talk about how this past week we had a dramatic increase in the number of contracts signed. We're going to talk about how there's been a pop in the luxury sales. We're going to look at the new development market where volume is definitely down, but luxury is definitely up. And lastly, I'm going to talk to you about my understanding of a buyer's run for value these days and what that means. There's a lot to discuss. Let's jump in really quick and let's have a quick look at our market. So, first thing that I want to jump in and take a look at over here is Manhattan weekly listings. We've had an increase in the number of listings. 395 listings came to the market this past week, but nothing to be really concerned about because this is what generally happens. As you can see, we're following the normal trend curve. More listings tend to come to the market at this point in time. But what's really exciting is on the demand side, the contract signed side. Well, we all know that in July till now, the number of contracts have been going down, down, down after we had a crazy, amazing year last year. But it's beginning to look like the contract slowdown is beginning to change. It's beginning to level off. And if we look at this past week, we see this really beautiful increase over here of the number of contracts that get signed this past week. We had 215 contracts signed last week. You might recall last week I talked about 145. That is a 48.28% increase in the contract signed. That is terrific. And you might recall last week I was saying to you that based on 145 sales, we're maybe on track if we do this to maybe get to 600 sales at the month. And really at this time of year, we have closer to 900. Well, based on this week, we are getting now closer, looking on a 30-day trend to 740 contracts signed. So we are definitely heading in the right direction, and I love to see that. If we look at where we are on the market pulse, please ask me, text me, email me to give you a further explanation of this. But we're looking at who has more leverage in this market, and it has definitely gone into a buyer's market, buyer having more leverage situation. But it looks like it may be leveling off, and that's basically what we're trying to find out. We're trying to see, is it because we're having a sharp decline, and the sharp decline seems to be going through some bit of a change. So we're going to keep track on that. Now, couple of really exciting things I want to talk to you about. Number one is looking at the luxury sector. We're looking at 4 million and up. And as you may see, if we look back over the last few months, there was quite a decline in the number of luxury sales taking place. You can watch the 5-month moving average, and you'll see obviously this quite steep decline over here. But over the last August, September, October, you'll see the number of contracts signed have been going up, which has been great. And the question is, are we going to continue to see this increase? If we look at the 5-year or the 4-year average from 2015 to 2019, we're looking basically before the pandemic, and we look at where that is, we seem to be moving towards that historical average. We have some room to go, but definitely look like we're moving in the right direction. So the luxury sector is definitely having a good time. If we look at the new development contracts and we look back, you'll see new development also had quite a decline going back over the last few months. And it seems like in July and August and September, we're starting to maybe make a step towards the right direction, still below the 12-month average, of course, but going towards the right direction. And what's interesting to note about that is when you look at the new development contracts, well, first of all, when you're looking at all of the contracts together, generally people talk about Manhattan, Brooklyn, and Queens, and they put together the new development contracts all in one bundle. But if you look at Manhattan specifically, and we look at these couple of weeks here, we're looking back a couple of weeks, looks like Manhattan itself might be leveling off on the new development front. And this is something that I want to dig into. I think you'll find it quite interesting. This is an article in AM New York. They grabbed some information from Market Proof and a few other places. And what they said over here is that the new development condo sales decline for the 4th consecutive week. And they're giving some more bad news about it dropping 17.5%. And projects across the city reported 33 contracts compared to nearly double in the height of September. Now, we were talking about that over here when we look at the fact that when you go further back, we had, further contracts were higher. But let me point out a couple of things. First of all, 33 contracts, while that might be a lot less than September, if you go back to 2019 in October, we had 2 weeks where we had between 30 and 40 contracts that were being signed in this new development market. So That's kind of a historical trend over there. That's really not as bleak as it might seem. And then also, what's really interesting here is that 8 of those deals were for homes asking for more than 4 million. And it's eight actually compared to four sales that we had the week before. So it's a really, really strong increase in the number of luxury sales that are taking place. And what let me interpret that a little bit for you. First of all, the new development, $4 million and up market is a little bit of a market into and of itself. And what I mean by that is, first of all, people in that market, they're not as affected by changes in interest rates. And a lot of those properties are prized properties, and they hold value pretty well through changing times. When you look at the new development market on the lower side, let's call it the middle market, new development side, that is a buyer who might be looking and saying, should I buy a resale apartment or should I buy a new development apartment? And the new development is going to be quite a lot more expensive. And they're going to ask themselves, should I make that additional investment? Do I think it's going to play out in the long run and be positive for me? Or is it going to be an expensive new development right now, but in 5 years from now, it won't be as new and sexy. So maybe it won't hold its value as much as a great deal that I might get right now on a resale. So people are kind of looking at it from a value perspective, but the $4 million and up new development market, it's a class of shiny properties in and of itself. You don't find people as much looking at the new development and not. They pretty much say, I want new development. I want the, cream of the crop, so to speak, and they go for that. And one more thing about value, something I'm seeing quite a lot in the market is buyers are looking at value. There are plenty of buyers looking to purchase. As we said, the number of contracts gone up quite a lot. People are looking at a couple of things. Number one, when they're looking at apartments, they might compare to apartments. One might be larger than the other, but does that additional use give you utility? In other words, if your apartment is 300 square foot larger than another, can you do something with that 300 square feet? Is it just that you maybe have a larger hallway? Or is it that maybe you can add a home office? That is utility. Or people are looking at real estate taxes or maintenance. And now they're paying a lot of attention to that because everybody's talking about rates and mortgage rates and your monthly outlay being more expensive. So they're looking at the additional cost of holding a property. And again, they're looking at the lower cost as being something that holds value. So just some interesting things that I'm seeing in the market, thought I'd share with you in this week's edition. Always looking to share some value. If you'd like any further information, if you have any questions about the market, a specific property, a listing, or whether you should buy, rent, or sell, I'd be happy to analyze that with you. Obviously enjoy talking about real estate. So please reach out and shoot me a text or a call. And if you want to be on these weekly updates, or you know anybody else that wants to get this weekly update, please respond, add me to weekly update, and I'd be happy to share it with you as well. Thanks so much and have yourself a great week.